Hey, David, thanks for joining us today as a way of getting started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much, Brian. My name is David Jacobovich, principal data scientist at Galvanize, host of the Humane podcast on productionizing everything you do with AI.
How'd you get into this?
Back in 2010, I got into actuarial science. I started actually
Exciting.
building models on women and health insurance and when they were pregnant, determining if we should change their rates. I thought it was a very interesting space and I wanted to have a bigger impact. So turned that into data science, got into consulting in the financial services space, quickly landed into enterprise products and helping with sales organizations, thinking about how to automate processes and how to improve conversion. And took that into AI with a fellowship at Columbia University, and ever since been focused on the enterprise space.
And why is it becoming so hot right now, in your opinion?
I think AI has been around since, we could say, the
Ever. Yeah.
1940s, since forever. Spreadsheets have been around since forever. I just featured in one of my episodes Zena Ugrensky, and she's been doing spreadsheets since the 80s, and basically says, I think computing power is powerful enough now that you can do AI quite quickly, and that you can get results from your data. But if your data is messy, it still doesn't mean you're going to get that far.
And where do you see it going right now, especially in the kind of the B2B enterprise space? Is that a space that you have a passion for?
I love B2B. I've been in that space for at least the last 5 years, worked with a lot of financial companies, Bloomberg, GQR, Booz Allen Hamilton, Charles Schwab, Invesco, a lot of financial companies. And I think it's interesting because one of our current clients is a financial service provider with thousands of employees, and they do financial service advisory, but they also do client success. So they're always trying to win over family offices and funds and their different clients with their portfolios. And traditionally, they don't touch the tech stack at all. So their financial advisors are talking about typical things such as asset management and your portfolio, but we're actually running a boot camp for them in the next few months that is going to teach them how to work with Python and how to work with APIs and how to talk the talk, if you will, translating data for the new culture.
And that's it, because I see companies today collecting a lot of information, but not really knowing what to do with it. And I think there's so much information out there, but I think we're information overload right now. Is that what you're hearing, or?
Yeah, we're living in a world where we have data treasure troves, and it used to be called, data ponds and then data pools and other data lakes, right? There's so much data out there, and the first thing is to get it into a system, and that
Yeah.
system starts with development. But one of the biggest mistakes companies have made is let's hire chief data scientists, let's scale out entire data science teams, let's throw money at the problem to get a result, but it's really about what are you trying to solve? And if it's a sales organization and you're using tools today such as Salesforce or other types of software as a service products, you want to figure out what are you trying to achieve. And is that higher revenue? Is that more clients in your funnel? Is that a greater conversion on the conversations you're having daily? And when you know the metrics you're trying to achieve, then you can use the data to power those goals.
Yeah, because what I see going wrong today is we're taking automation and applying it to what worked 5, 10 years ago, which is a simple pitch email and then a follow-up on the pitch email and then a breakup email. And the person receiving it doesn't know you, doesn't like you, doesn't trust you, and he has 100 of them a day. So they don't see any difference. And I see these reps just get pushed on KPIs that aren't based off of the likelihood of that person being interested, nor what they would be interested in. Kind of they're using this inner mindset on somebody that's getting bombarded by messages. Do you see a way of AI helping there?
Yeah, so when you have outreach, whether it's cold outreach or warm inbound, you have to know your customer. And that's knowing what makes them tick and how that's similar to current clients you have. I like to think of use cases. You've got to make it relatable to those customers. But even before they're a customer, as you just mentioned, Brian, what's the likelihood they're going to convert? And that's knowing their profile, knowing what they like, and being able to speak their language. I think the more relatable you get, having that common ground from the start, that's going to increase that likelihood. But then let's think of it from a probability standpoint. So there's so many algorithms out there, right? And what can you use theoretically to see a conversion? One of the classic algorithms is logistic regression. It's basically a yes/no algorithm. Are you going to get the loan approved? Are you going to get the loan rejected? Are you going to become a sale? Are you not going to become a sale? There's many algorithms you can use, but just throwing your data into a model, well, it's more than flipping a coin, right? You've increased that 50% likelihood.
And that's it, because I've always seen the great sales reps have great judgment. They knew how to spend their time, where their managers were kind of just make 50 calls a day. Well, it's like a detective trying to find the criminal, right? They go through judgment. They don't go knocking on every possible door. It would take forever. And you see the people searching in the fields. I've never seen that produce anything. It just keeps people busy. What do great detectives do? They go from the person outwards, right? Who's most likely to have a motivation to have committed this crime, have the opportunity, have the most to gain from this. And I did a post on LinkedIn called Judgment is the New Activity. It's like, let's put activity on the things that have the most likelihood to be interested in us. And I think that with this kind of ocean of data that we have and our little lakes and ponds, if we could process it and prioritize it, would be a great opportunity.
I think we as humans are the new AI in the sense that we're moving into a world where it's human-powered AI together. And Deloitte came out with their human capital management report in April, and they said we're moving to a world of super jobs. These are where, as you mentioned, those jobs of 5 to 10 years ago are not necessarily going away, but you're running the same work that 2 or 3 people used to do. So those jobs are consolidating. If you're a sales rep today, you might be looking at those KPIs and analytics as well. You might be doing your own data dashboards also. So you're not just making the calls and driving the deals, but you're also becoming an engagement manager. You're also becoming an analyst. And I think that's great in the sense that you have more insights available so you can better close deals, but it could be overwhelming. And that's why you still want to have experts on your team.
And I think you can also learn from the great sales reps that are doing bigger deals. And what is that pattern that that deal went through? How long did it take? What were the titles of the people that got involved? What were the artifacts that had to be exchanged between them? And I think there's just so much opportunity there. And I think people have to first apply human intelligence. But there's so much data that human intelligence gets overwhelmed by the data now. What excites you about AI in the future in this space? Is it machine learning? Is it deep learning? Is it what's really exciting you?
Yeah, so the 2 biggest fields of AI that have been having a lot of traction are both computer vision and natural language processing. Computer vision is the image work. It could be autonomous driving. It could be drones. It could be looking at grapes on a farm and if they're ripe yet. It could be looking at satellite images for selling farms, for noticing where you should build new houses, where a new Starbucks location should get planted. So computer vision is really strong. And that's important because we all have in our pocket these smartphones, and they all have cameras, and all the apps of the future are going to be image powered. We've seen recently that images have become even more powerful and almost contrarian in nature because San Francisco just a couple weeks ago banned using facial recognition in public places. So that means if you're a police officer with a body cam, if you're a government building with cameras outside, you can no longer capture faces to determine if someone is on a wanted list or if they're a good Samaritan. That's really fascinating because we see in China companies like MegVI and Face++ from SenseTime doing facial recognition everywhere, right? The whole society is on that. And I think it's an interesting place that we need more regulation and the proper legislation to still allow this because I think the more data that you can run into systems, the better you can convert sales. So I live in New York City and I'm near Herald Square where Macy's is. And if I go into a Macy's, I want them to come to me with a beacon. I want them to come to me with a personalized coupon based on my previous sales. But if my data is blocked off in some unknown treasure chest, then how can I have a personalized experience?
Yeah. And how about the natural language processing? Because in sales, that I think is critical. I mean, we're seeing a lot of our partners today with recording sales conversations and analyzing them and finding patterns and coaching, talk to listen ratio, questions, closes, when are they talking about price, things like that. I see the real opportunity there in training. Because if you can record this, then if you could possibly make it interactive, where you could actually have an interactive sales trainer going through role plays, which no one really wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think two interesting things come out there. So with the AI speech to text conversion, now with Amazon Poly and other tools, you can almost instantly convert your audio to text. One of my favorite apps I use is Dialpad. Dialpad also converts it instantly as you're on the call. And so that's interesting for two reasons. One, note-taking. You want to reference the call later. What were the buzzwords said? What were the key metrics? It's tough to live take notes and really hone in on your client. But then second is the training. You can take the audio, instantly convert to text, and then instantly run it into an algorithm to get the sentiment if the client was positive, if they were negative, if something's going on. What if you can do that in real time? You can. There are systems today, there's companies like ASAP and other ones that are using these conversational systems for call centers for companies like Sprint and AT&T, that they're live taking the text and live taking the audio, getting the sentiment, understanding the likelihood that the customer is going to leave the company or upsell them. And it's instrumentally valuable because as humans, we do have that intuition, but we're not always right. And we can't always read sarcasm and all these clues. So if you've trained on millions of conversations, chances are the machine's going to be more accurate than the human.
And I think that sentiment is good because too often what you have is the person's not getting it, right? And there's certain questions that a seasoned salesperson would be like, oh, I'm talking about, they're not understanding what I'm saying. You know, I said apple and they're thinking a company, not the fruit. Right. So there's a different meaning to things and they're going down the wrong path. Means I'm moving too fast or I'm too technical or I'm too business oriented. So I see enormous opportunities there. How about things like being able to analyze blog posts and ebooks, because you could very easily look at a client's website and determine what they're interested in, what they're talking about, the keywords that they care about, how it's maybe evolved over a time period.
Yeah, so I think even if we look at the legal space, there are startups now that are replacing what hundreds of lawyers used to do super quickly. And what that means is you're able to do like e-discovery and look at documents and process them quickly. There's one startup called Disco, which is in Austin, Texas, and they basically do that, right? They'll go through a 900-page briefing and parse out the interesting information that you could be at risk for liabilities. There's another one in San Francisco, Atrium, they do something similar. So it's interesting in the legal space, but I think that's also applicable in the sales space as well. You have a client and they're a prospect. Do you actually want to read through all their LinkedIn posts and all their sites? What if you can use an algorithm to give me the sentiment of what is the 10 most used words that they always use in their posts? So then when you talk to them, you have that common ground, you use those words. I think that's great. And I'm sure startups are beginning to play around with that because that's super important for sales folks.
And then there's also like basic stuff like the geography. People in New York City have different interests than people in Atlanta, Georgia. They have different talk rates. They have slightly different vocabulary. They certainly care about different sport teams. The weather is dramatically different. All of these things can become those old-fashioned things to start to build rapport over. But it requires a lot of time to actually research and think through that.
Right. So if you could have a fact-finding report that comes out and says, here are all the things you should know about this individual. And even though each thing by itself may not add up, what's the weather, what's their favorite sports team, what's the city they live in, but once you add multiple clues up, it shows, wow, this person cares for me. Yeah, there's someone I could see myself drinking a beer over, working with, and yeah, let's do business together or let's continue that conversation. if each factor only adds 1% to the likelihood that you convert the sale, well, before you know it, 10 factors, that's 10%, and that could be 10% greater than your competition.
And that's it. And then even in like marketing where, lead scoring's been this hot thing, but it's more based off of what the person does. And today with lots of review sites and content sites that track people and trying to judge their level of in-marketness, it could certainly tell you what's going on within the company. Who's looking at what products are they looking at? Because so many times what we sell comes right before or right after somebody buying something. When you buy a new condo, right, you're open to new cable service, right? You're open to painting, you're open to furniture. And that's a period of time event that if you don't get it right at that time, a year later, it's too late. Sofa's fine, the wall's fine. I'm not switching my cable company.
Brian, did you use some AI on me before our call? Because I'm actually I'm closing on the condo in the next couple of weeks.
I'm analyzing the background there. It's like, how long's he been there?
So amazing. But it's so true. It's the timeliness of that information. And I think when you work with any clients you're trying to sell, it is so key, the momentum. And when you're going to market, we work on products that galvanize like talent pipeline as a service, where we do these deals that could be, from a few $100,000 to a few $1 million. And a company says they want something, we got to move with such speed because the market is changing so fast with reskilling and upskilling. And if a client wants something, you have to show, we are not just a provider for you, but we're going to be your partner. And I think when individuals are trying to meet their quotas and you're trying to increase sales at your organization, you have to think, how can we be your partner? And we're here as your, not just a one-stop shop, but we're here to give you that white glove service. And when you really think with that mindset, then your client is thinking, wow, this is a partner, and I can look for them for strategic advisory, for thought leadership, and they're on my short list that I'm going to call and speed dial and tell 10 other people about them as well.
And that's it, because things today change so fast. It's like, the longevity of people at companies, regardless of their level of interest or performance, isn't what it used to be. And I have always found that job changes are often catalysts for people to be open about products and to change.
Yeah, I think so. In the job space, especially in sales, the organizations have such quick turnover. And I think the challenge is, one, are you someone who's made out to do sales? But then two, what are you seeking for? And usually it's several things that motivate people. It could be how challenging is the organization and you're learning. How much room for advancement is there? If you are driven by money, what is that type of compensation structure as well? And then is it a culture of people that you like to work with? And there's many different types of sales organizations, right? You could sell physical products, you could sell greenfield products, you could sell tech products. It just depends on who you are. I think everyone can become a salesperson. I don't think we're born as introverts and extroverts. There's these ambiverts, which one of my mentors, John Spence, talked about on his recent TED Talk, that we're really between the grains of introvert and extrovert, and we can mold ourselves based on the environment we're around, based on who our mentors are. So I think everyone could become a salesperson. You just got to be disciplined and have that drive to succeed.
And I think AI can help us there to get us to talk about what the other person cares about, to get that curiosity, kind of do it for us, or at least prompt us that this is what they and people like them are most curious about.
The purpose of AI is to take anything that is routine or repetitive that a machine can do better than a human, or do something a human does not want to do, and to speed up the process. So do we really want to do research? Do we really want to do discovery on our clients? We want to get into the conversation. We want to have fun. We want to discover the problem and come up with a solution. So yeah, I totally think AI is that solution to speed up that process. And then us as humans, we do the more complex tasks of going through the road mapping and being that partner for the clients.
And that's it, because every rep tells me, I just want more up bats, which is more people that are in market, open-minded, want to talk. Well, today that takes, 2 or 3 days to find one.
And the
And
attention span is so short, right? So when you
yeah,
get up a bat, like you need to get on the call. I know people in the sales space and they say, oh, we can do everything by email. And I say, no, get on the phone, get in person. I know you think it's old fashioned, but whether you grab the coffee, the beer, the golf, or the dinner, the more face time you have with that potential lead, either they'll convert potentially, or maybe they'll also introduce you to other people who could be more timely for business today.
and anything you're working on that's real exciting as far as AI?
Yeah, so I have an AI podcast called Humane. It talks about thought leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. So it's on iTunes, Spotify, Luminary, Humane with an AI in the middle. I've also given a few AI talks recently. I gave a conference talk in New Orleans, which is on AI machine learning for non-technical people. So that's really exciting to see how everyone's coming to the conversation. And I'm working on some research. It's called the Data Science Standards. For those people looking to get into data science, they often don't know where to start. I have on GitHub a whole resource page on how to do data science projects, what are resources to learn data science and AI, and how to debunk all these buzzwords. So happy to drop those links later for your listeners for those interested in those topics.
Cool. And where can people go to connect up with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, sure. So the podcast, of course, is humanepodcast.com, HUMAIN podcast.com. And on GitHub, my name, David Jacobovich, you'll find those repositories with all those books and resources and links, and we could share that as well.